the whole concept of buses on a fixed guideway, which I feel has not been properly studied. I think the city administration has been hostile to that alternative from the beginning and has slanted all of their studies against it. It's a critical issue because if we continue down this track heading to rail,
No pun intended,
which the
I guess.
administration clearly is obsessed with, to the exclusion of all alternatives, it'll be the biggest mistake that Honolulu's government has ever made. It's a tragedy. $6 billion for a system that will not be used, that will not be effective. And rather than going into all of the arguments as to why it wouldn't be used and effective, you've heard a lot of them before. Just to summarize that ramps, this issue, this touchy issue of ramps, speaks to a whole world of difference between the two systems that we're discussing. One system rail, the other system fixed guideway with flexible buses that can go in a community. What is wrong with building a few ramps? Freeways do it all the time. It's a freeway ramp. What's wrong with that? What's wrong with having a few ramps? No elevated bus stations are needed on an elevated guideway. This is a road, and the stations, we do need bus stations, happen at ground level. Mililani Shopping Center, Waianae Shopping Center, Hawaii Shopping Center, and so on and so on. The infrastructure for bus stations is there already, on the ground. We don't need a 10-lane wide bus station elevated as you were just presented with that possibility. That's ridiculous. These are straw men that the city is setting up to knock down to say, oh, any such alternative is invalid and will not work. So my main reason to be here is for you to instruct the city administration to do a thorough alternatives analysis that includes the idea of buses that can circulate in the community, go on a fixed guideway with some ramps. Maybe we need 3 or 4 ramps at the beginning, at the end, and a few intermediate points. And furthermore, this elevated guideway structure, while it may be a little wider than that for a train, let's give them that, it does not have to go through residential communities. It can go over or next to our existing freeway because it doesn't require immediate people living right next to it to walk to it. It can be in our existing transit corridor and therefore much less obtrusive than elevated rail would be.
Thanks, Dennis.
Thank you very much.
Compare the mayor's choo-choo train and a tollway. The flexibility for the tollway is heads and shoulders over this. Our handicap vans can go, the express buses, a bus, rubber tired on the flyover, can go to Eva. They can start Eva all the way down the track, different buses in the morning, express time. They can make 1 or 2 stops in Eva, get on the flyway and be in Honolulu in 30 minutes. Not all these stops all the way along. If you get on at the bottom of the end, you gotta wait for a whole hour till you get to town. It's just not practical. You can have your emergency vehicles use the flyway. During the day, the taxi drivers in Waikiki that are trying to get tourists, or maybe you and me, to the airport in a timely manner, can get up on the flyway, pay the toll fee, and be at the airport in 10 minutes instead of sitting on Nimitz. So what I'm concerned is that you, in all these months that we've been listening to this stuff, you haven't studied and compared for the public the tollway as opposed to the rail. And it has to be done before you make a decision. I was at the Windward community when you did the testimonies, and here's a lady from Eva or out in that way, works in Waikiki. She gets up and says, we need the train. Obviously, because she can't drive in and sit in that traffic. The hotels don't let her park in the parking lot because you need it for your customers. But I'm saying, talk about the tollway. She'd be into Waikiki far quicker, and she doesn't need her car. And yet we don't present that to the public, so the public has no idea. When I talk to people, I mean, they have no idea. It's only this rail project, which is so scary, the cost involved. You're only touching a little bit of the cost, so I just plead with you that put on the brakes just a little bit and do an in-depth comparison of both.